Hello, welcome to day 7 of the Project Peaceful Purge Challenge. Number 1, I want to start off by saying, go you. Look at this. You've been doing this for a week. This is a full week now that you've been doing this, and you have gotten through a lot. You've done several decluttering tasks throughout your home. You've also learned several mindset hacks, and if you've been applying them, you're starting to see some of the results there. And I just want to first of all celebrate you and say good job. Okay. Second thing I want to say before we dive into the content today. Some of you may be feeling amazing right now. Some of you might be like, yes, I've made this a whole week. I'm seeing progress. This is wonderful. I'm so excited. This is amazing. For those of you who are there, I'm like, awesome. Okay. Let's keep it on. Let's keep the roll going. I'm celebrating with you. Okay. Some of you, though, might be feeling defeated, might be facing some resistance even, might be feeling a little overwhelmed even by this challenge and feel like you're behind, or that you're struggling. You might be struggling with this right now. If that's you, I want to say I see you. I acknowledge you, because this is hard work. What we're doing is hard work. And everything from the daily tasks to the mindset hacks that we're practicing, it is hard work. And you may be finding resistance, okay? And for those of you who are there, I want to invite you to reach out to me. Okay, I would love to connect with you a little bit more one-on-one to support you and see where that resistance is coming from. As some of you may know, I am a mindset coach. One of the things that I do is that I help you figure out those resistance pieces that are showing up and get to the root of what's causing it so that you can address the root and see different fruit. Because the root is what creates the fruit. So if you're seeing fruit that you don't like in your life, and when you go to try to change the fruit, you're coming up against resistance and you're having a hard time, it's time to get to the root. And sometimes we can do that by ourselves, and sometimes we need support in that. And so if that is you today, I'm going to pop a link. You have access to a free call with me, a free one-on-one call where we'll dig into that and see what are some strategies and what are some next steps that you can take to address that root. And it's a free one-on-one call. It's part of this challenge, and I'll pop the calendar in there so that you can book that. Okay. Because I don't want you to be floundering through this, right? So if you're struggling, we're a week into this, if you're starting to come up against resistance and you're struggling, feeling frustrated, I want to help you. Okay. So get on that call. Let's get to some of those roots so that you can start seeing the results that you want to see. All right. So that being said, let's talk about today's mindset hack. This is one of my very favorites, y'all. Okay. This is one I personally do frequently, multiple times throughout the day sometimes. Okay. This is called blessing my future self. Now, this is a question that I ask myself. Okay. And it is, what will bless future me? Now, future me could be me tomorrow, could be me next week, next month, or even next year, depending on what the choice that I'm looking at is. But when I'm looking at something in my day, oftentimes what I will ask is, what will bless future me? So some examples of this could be, if you know you're going somewhere tomorrow and you have to leave by a certain time in the morning, and you're going to need to pack a lunch. What would bless future you is probably packing your lunch or getting it staged and ready tonight before you go to bed. Basically what this does is it shifts your focus from the immediate right now kind of survival mode to a little bit of this longer term vision of, what do I want my life to look like? And what choices can I start making right now that align with that? Okay. So This might be a pretty new concept for you, and it might feel very foreign, because we're very used to, a lot of times we can be very used to, especially when we're first starting on this journey, focusing on just kind of like right now survival mode. And that's okay, that's a season. But if you're wanting to shift out of that, what we do, start by doing one thing each day that will bless your future self. Okay, so one time a day, starting from now forward, ask yourself, what will bless future me? And this could be what will bless me tonight in the morning. Like, you could ask yourself in the morning, what would bless me tonight? I do this a lot being pregnant. Okay, y'all, I'm at the time of this recording, pregnant with baby number 4, or this is my 4th pregnancy. And I am often by the end of the day, like, exhausted. So dinner time, if I do not prep ahead of time, is like sandwiches, if that, or bowls of cereal, maybe frozen pizza, right? It's those quick, easy, like kind of last minute things that don't require a lot of energy to make them if I don't plan ahead. Okay, so one example I have is my mornings. I will ask myself, well, what will bless future me? What will bless future me is to make sure I have a plan for dinner, and that I actually prep it like in the morning or early afternoon around lunchtime. Like when I'm making lunch, start prepping dinner, so that all I have to do is turn on the rice cooker or turn on the Instant Pot, or just let the Instant Pot stay warm all day, or turn on the stove, like those type of things. Like do all of my chopping, the things that take more energy, like the chopping and the assembling and things like that, that don't, of things that I can prep as much as I can ahead of time, so that then when dinner time comes, it's either completely done or minimal prep. So that's an example of like even something you can do each day to bless your future self in that same day. You can also make I already gave the example of like the night before, prep your lunch. And again, you can start looking further into the future if you want, but just start with one as you're starting to make this brain hack, because this is kind of a habit almost. As you're starting to implement this brain hack, start by just doing one thing. Start by asking yourself one time a day, what will bless future me? And as you keep doing it, it gets easier and it almost becomes second nature. So like, for example, a couple weeks ago, I was food prepping and I was making egg cups, because I make these like little mini crustless quiches that I keep in the freezer for easy breakfasts, lunches, dinners, snacks, just meals, because we like eggs. And when I made like a big double quadruple batch. I literally used 5 dozen eggs and made like, I think 10 dozen egg cups, because I do the eggs, but then I add some bacon and I add veggies and I add some milk and I add like baking mix. I use one that's like gluten-free and refined sugar-free and stuff. And I'll add things like that to make it a crustless mini quiche. So when I was doing that first thing in the morning and I'm working on making all these egg cups, I was like, what would really bless future me tonight when I'm done making all these egg cups is not having to make dinner, because I've been in the kitchen all day cooking these things. And so I took some of that and I poured it into a big pie pan and made a quiche, an actual quiche. And that was our dinner. Bonus points, it was also, because there's only 4 of us in our family, it was also several meals. But I served that with a simple like lettuce, tomato salad for dinner, right? And so that was something I did in the morning. So these are just examples, right, of things that we can look at and ask ourselves, what will bless future me? Because as we start approaching life from that perspective and thinking, how can I bless my future self? We start making choices in alignment with who we want to be and the results we want to get. Because a lot of times what keeps us from doing the things we want to do and behaving the way we want to behave day to day is that we are kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And so when we take the time to think ahead and prep ahead, it makes life go so much smoother. So that is our mindset hack for the day. Your task today for decluttering is to go through your food storage bins, the Tupperware, things like that, the ones that always seem to like somehow get mismatched and be a wreck. Go through them. Whatever you use to store food, particularly like leftovers, things like Tupperware, but go through that food storage and organize it. Okay? Get rid of mismatching bottoms and lids. Like if you have a lid that doesn't have a bottom, get rid of it. Don't keep it. If you have a bottom that doesn't have a top and it's not particularly useful for other things, and you're not really using it, get rid of it, especially if it's plastic. Like, for example, I have some snapware that's glass, and right now all the lids are matching, but the snapware, like the glass ones, they're the right size that I actually could use them as like actual eating, like bowls and stuff. So when the lids break on that, I might keep the glass and just toss the broken lid. So obviously, like if you're using it and you have a purpose for it currently, get rid of it. Or sorry, keep it. Don't get rid of it. If you currently have a purpose for it, keep it. But if you do not currently have a purpose for it and it doesn't have a match, get rid of it. Don't keep it thinking, well, I might use it for this someday. Just get rid of it, okay? This is how the clutter happens. One of the ways that we can accumulate clutter is because we think, well, someday I might need it. And there's a few appropriate circumstances for that. Like if you're someone who likes to be prepared for like have emergency preparedness, things like that. There's certain things where that's appropriate to have certain items that actually have a very specific particular use, that are maybe multi-purpose. They're not easily replaceable, things like that, okay? However, if it's things like Tupperware where you could just go buy a new set and it's not, it doesn't have a match, you're not currently using it, do not save it thinking you might use it later. Get rid of it, okay? The piece of releasing things is going to bring so much more peace to your life. It's also an exercise in trust, because when we're willing to release our stuff, our physical stuff, it's kind of like saying, Lord, I trust you to provide for my needs. When you're willing to let go of the things that you're not actually using, that are not actually meeting a need, and that you do not actually have a plan for, but it's kind of like a what if scenario, or I might need it someday. Like there's a difference between I might need it someday and I use this for this specific holiday gathering, or I'm going to use it for this particular purpose. For example, I have a box of glass jars that are like I've reused from like spaghetti sauce. Like, so when I buy things in glass jars, like my spaghetti sauce comes in a glass jar, or my sauerkraut comes in a glass jar, things like that. I have a box of jars that, previously had food in them that I wash and save, that I use for crafts or for gifting things to people. Like it's a good container to be able to like put something in to protect it for people. I've used them to make like candles before, right? I have a specific purpose in mind for those glass items. But also when that box gets full, I go through it, I get rid of the ones that are maybe a little dinged up or whatever that I'm not actually using, and I don't add things to it. I throw things away until I've actually used what's in that jar, for example. But there's a specific purpose to that. It's not I might use it someday, so I'm keeping it in this box. It's, I have an intention and a purpose for it, and a specific thing I use it for. It might not be every day. It might not even be every week, but once a month or so, I am pulling it out and using it for something. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a comment. I'm more than happy to get into that more. But basically, all that to say, decluttering is actually an act of faith, because you're willing to say, Lord, I trust you that if I actually need this thing I'm not actually currently using and it's just taking up space, I'm going to release it, bless someone else with it, and trust that if I do need it again, you will provide it for me. And I could go on and on about testimony and evidence of this in my own personal life, and this is why I'm so passionate about it. And you know what? I probably will talk about it at another time, but for the sake of time today, I'm not going to get into it beyond what I've already said, all right? So all that to say, go through your food storage bins, toss or donate mismatched bottoms and lids unless you are actively using it for a purpose, all right? And that is your task for today. I will see you guys tomorrow.